In a move that has sent shockwaves through the international community, Ukrainian forces have launched an incursion into Russia's Kursk region. This daring operation marks a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict, signaling Ukraine's determination to take the fight to its aggressor. The incursion, while strategically significant, is not without its risks. It has ignited fierce debate among military analysts and policymakers about its potential consequences for the war's trajectory. The immediate goal of Ukraine's offensive is to disrupt Russia's military operations and relieve pressure on the embattled Eastern Front. By opening a new front within Russia's borders, Ukraine seeks to force Moscow to divert troops and resources, potentially slowing its advance in the Donbas region. However, the long-term implications of this strategy remain uncertain, with experts divided on its potential for success. Some argue that it could embolden Ukraine and bolster its morale, while others fear it could provoke a dangerous escalation from Russia. Gustav Gressel, a seasoned military analyst and senior policy fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, has issued a stark warning about the potential risks of Ukraine's incursion. Gressel, known for his expertise on Russian military strategy, argues that while the move may yield some tactical gains in the short term, it could ultimately backfire. He cautions that Ukraine's limited resources would be better spent bolstering its defenses and preparing for a protracted conflict rather than engaging in offensive operations deep inside Russian territory. Gressel's analysis centers on the disparity in military capabilities between Russia and Ukraine. Russia possesses a larger and more technologically advanced military with vast reserves of manpower and weaponry, while Ukraine has demonstrated remarkable resilience and tactical ingenuity throughout the conflict. It cannot hope to match Russia's military might in a protracted war of attrition. Gressel argues that Ukraine's best chance of success lies in leveraging its agility and local knowledge to wage a defensive campaign, inflicting heavy costs on the invading Russian forces while seeking to erode their morale. One of the most pressing challenges facing Ukraine is the stark asymmetry in resources between itself and Russia. While Western military aid has been crucial in sustaining Ukraine's defense, it has not been sufficient to close the gap entirely. Russia, with its vast military-industrial complex, retains a significant advantage in terms of artillery, armored vehicles, and aircraft. This disparity in firepower has been evident in the brutal fighting in the Donbas, where Russia has been able to unleash relentless barrages of artillery fire. Ukraine's incursion into the Kursk region risks exacerbating this resource imbalance. By extending its lines of communication and supply, Ukraine becomes more vulnerable to Russian counterattacks. It also increases the demands on its already strained logistical networks. Maintaining an offensive posture requires a constant flow of ammunition, fuel, and other essential supplies, something that will become increasingly difficult for Ukraine to sustain the longer the incursion continues. Ukraine's incursion into Russia presents a delicate balancing act for its Western allies. On the one hand, they must demonstrate unwavering support for Ukraine's right to defend itself and liberate its occupied territories. On the other hand, they must also manage the risk of escalation and prevent the conflict from spiraling into a wider European war. This delicate balancing act requires careful diplomacy and a nuanced understanding of the Kremlin's calculus. The incursion has exposed divisions within the Western alliance, with some countries advocating for a more cautious approach, while others push for greater military support for Ukraine. The United States and the United Kingdom, for example, have been among the most vocal supporters of providing Ukraine with advanced weaponry, including long-range missile systems. Germany and France, on the other hand, have been more hesitant, fearing that such moves could provoke Russia and escalate the conflict. Section 5. The Attrition Trap. Avoiding a war of resources that favors Russia. One of the greatest dangers facing Ukraine is the prospect of being drawn into a protracted war of attrition. Russia, with its larger population and industrial base, is better positioned to sustain a long conflict. Ukraine, with its limited resources, cannot afford to engage in a war of attrition that would inevitably favor Russia in the long run. Avoiding this trap requires Ukraine to adopt an asymmetric approach, leveraging its agility and local knowledge to inflict maximum damage on Russian forces while minimizing its own casualties. Key to Ukraine's success will be its ability to maintain the element of surprise and exploit vulnerabilities in Russia's defenses. This will require continued innovation in its tactics and the development of new capabilities, such as long-range strike capabilities and sophisticated drone warfare. Ukraine must also focus on strengthening its defensive positions and preparing for the possibility of a protracted conflict. Section 6. The stakes escalate. The potential for a wider conflict and global ramifications. Ukraine's incursion into Russia has raised the stakes of the conflict, increasing the potential for miscalculation and escalation. The Kremlin has responded to the incursion with fury, accusing Ukraine of terrorism and vowing swift retribution. While Russia has so far refrained from launching attacks on NATO territory, the risk of an accidental escalation remains high. This underscores the need for clear communication channels between Russia and the West to prevent misunderstandings that could have catastrophic consequences. The conflict in Ukraine has already had profound global implications, disrupting energy markets, exacerbating food insecurity, and fueling inflation. A wider conflict involving NATO would have even more devastating consequences, potentially plunging the world into a new era of geopolitical instability and economic turmoil. This underscores the urgent need for a diplomatic solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict and ensures a lasting peace. Section 7. The importance of diplomacy, seeking a negotiated path to peace. While the fighting rages on, it is crucial to remember that diplomacy remains the only viable path to a lasting peace in Ukraine. While military aid is essential for Ukraine to defend itself, a negotiated settlement is the only way to end the bloodshed and prevent further suffering. This will require both sides to make difficult compromises and for the international community to play a constructive role in facilitating dialogue. A key challenge for any peace process will be addressing Russia's security concerns without compromising Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This will require creative diplomacy and a willingness to explore innovative security arrangements that can provide guarantees to both sides. The international community, particularly countries with leverage over Russia, such as China and India, must use their influence to persuade the Kremlin to engage in good faith negotiations. Section 8. The global community's responsibility, standing with Ukraine in its hour of need. The international community has a moral and strategic imperative to stand with Ukraine in its hour of need. This means providing Ukraine with the military and economic assistance it needs to defend itself and rebuild its shattered economy. It also means holding Russia accountable for its aggression and ensuring that it faces severe consequences for its actions. Beyond material support, the international community must also provide unwavering political and diplomatic backing for Ukraine. This includes supporting Ukraine's aspirations for European integration and working to isolate Russia on the world stage. The Kremlin must understand that its aggression will not be tolerated and that it will face continued international pressure until it ends its war of aggression and withdraws its forces from Ukraine. Section 9. A pivotal moment. The future of Ukraine and the rules-based international order. The conflict in Ukraine is a defining moment for the rules-based international order. Russia's blatant violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity represents a fundamental challenge to the principles of international law and the post-World War II security architecture. The outcome of this conflict will have profound implications for the future of Europe and the world. If Russia is allowed to succeed in its aggression, it will set a dangerous precedent, emboldening other authoritarian regimes to pursue their own expansionist ambitions. This would usher in a new era of global instability and conflict. However, if Ukraine, with the unwavering support of the international community, is able to resist Russian aggression and defend its freedom, it will send a powerful message that the rules-based international order is still strong.